hack which allegedly breached the global messaging service WhatsApp been linked to the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Last year, a Canadian-based dissident, Omar Abdulaziz, claimed his phone was tapped using spyware developed by the Israeli cyber surveillance firm NSO, which meant the Saudi authorities could have had access to hundreds of messages he exchanged with Mr. Khashoggi. About their opposition to Saudi government activities, NSO has denied any involvement with operating or identifying targets of its technology. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Jonathan Rugman has more.
Last October, Jamal Khashoggi disappeared inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. The Saudis eventually admitted the journalist was killed by a hit squad of Saudi security men, but they described it as a rogue operation. The question is, were his messages on WhatsApp hacked, and did the material provide a motive for his murder? In the year before his death, Khashoggi is reported to have sent more than 400 WhatsApp messages to this man, Omar Abdulaziz, a Saudi dissident living in Canada. Abdulaziz hosted a satirical program on YouTube called Sedition, attacking the Saudi royal family and its record on human rights. Last year, Abdulaziz began legal action against an Israeli spyware firm he believes sold its technology to the Saudi government, which he claims hacked his phone.
They arrested my brothers, two of my brothers and a group of my friends. And then they killed Jamal.
The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia last year offered condolences to Khashoggi's eldest son, denying any involvement in his murder. But Abdulaziz fears his hacked messages played a major role in his friend's death. Those messages were first obtained by CNN, and they were highly critical of the Crown Prince. He's like a beast, a Pac-Man. The more victims he eats, the more he wants, he messaged Abdulaziz in May last year. But in August, Abdulaziz discovered that their messages may have been intercepted by the Saudi authorities. How did they know? Khashoggi messaged him. There must have been a gap, Abdulaziz replied. After 3 minutes, Khashoggi sent this message. God help us, he wrote. 2 months later, he was dead in Istanbul. The Israeli cyber company NSO Group is based near Tel Aviv. The Israeli press has reported that the Saudis paid $55 million for its technology. The firm doesn't disclose its government customers, but told us tonight,
Omar Abdulaziz's suit makes a number of false claims about our technology, which is designed to prevent and investigate terror and crime.
Today, the firm's activities were back in the spotlight after WhatsApp revealed a security flaw implicating the NSO Group, although the firm wasn't named. A human rights lawyer in the UK says he believes there was an attempted hack on his phone as recently as 2 days ago. Amnesty International said it too had received malicious WhatsApp messages last August, and it's now joined legal action in Israel to revoke export licenses for NSO's spyware.
So these softwares that NSO is marketing as tools to prevent terror and crime are used against human rights defenders and lawyers and doctors and members of parliament. We are not criminals and we are not terrorists. And when the Ministry of Defense in Israel allows this to happen, it endangers millions of people around the world.
NSO says its clients are vetted by the Israeli authorities, and it points out that its clients operate the technology, not the company itself. It told us in a statement,
We investigate any credible allegations of misuse, and if necessary, we take action, including shutting down the system. Under no circumstances would NSO be involved in the operating or identifying of targets of its technology, which is solely operated by intelligence and law enforcement agencies.
WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, and it's used by 1.5 billion people worldwide. Today, it said it had fixed the security flaw. The firm told us,
WhatsApp encourages people to upgrade to the latest version of our app. We are constantly working alongside industry partners to provide the latest security enhancements to help protect our users.
But the question remains, how far back do other alleged breaches in its security go? And what could be a more worrying example of how much all this matters than the murder of a Saudi journalist in Istanbul?
Jonathan Rugman reporting. But now joining us from Toronto is John Scott Railton, who is a senior researcher with Citizen Lab, an organisation which monitors the impact of technology on human rights. John Scott Railton, do you think it really is, and do you indeed even have any evidence that messages that Khashoggi was having with other dissident Saudis really were intercepted, possibly by the firm or by some other force that the Saudis had access to?
So at the end of last year, Citizen Lab published a report showing that Omar Abdulaziz, one of Khashoggi's close confidants, was successfully infected with Pegasus spyware. We believe Omar when he says that he engaged in a lot of communications with Khashoggi during the period that we think that he was infected. The inference there would be some of those communications would have been available to the party operating that spyware.
From what you've seen, I mean, was there enough content to bring about the death of Khashoggi?
Well, Citizen Lab is a technical research group, and our expertise is not really in murder investigations. That said, it's quite shocking when a technology that's supposed to be for sort of, digital monitoring shows up in a murder inquiry like this.
Well, we bring this home here to Britain, where a human rights lawyer is pretty convinced that his phone his WhatsApp account was penetrated and indeed compromised as a result. Would you give that credence?
Well, so we actually are the origin of that. We observed as recently as Sunday that this UK-based human rights lawyer was getting suspicious messages that we believe are attempts to use the vulnerability that WhatsApp closed over the weekend and then pushed out a patch for this Monday. What's interesting about that is that as recently as Sunday, whoever was doing this didn't appear to know that WhatsApp and others had cottoned on to what they were doing. It also suggests that WhatsApp's patch and blocking is effective and effectively stopped that attack from infecting that individual's phone.
Well, this is pretty scary, but thank you very much indeed for helping us through the jungle. That's very kind. Thank you very much, John Scott Railton.
Most welcome. Thank you for your time.